Now, the reading mania. We have discussed how did the printing started to get connected to various people, how the ideology started to spread with the case of Martin Luther King, and also in the example of Italian Miller writing the book and penalized for commenting against the church. And later on, the further developments have led to the having a list of books banned by the church authorities all over the world by 1558. Now, understanding of the print mania. Let us see here. So, before this, we used to have books written by the people only to the richer community or the elite group. Later on, they start to spread to the various corners, and now the people started to maintain the almanacs. The almanacs are the maintenance of the entire record for the entire whole year, where it's like a calendar in which the entire list of the activities, festivals, important dates, important occasions, everything are being maintained. That started to publish in a very larger scale. Books started to publish in a very larger scale. Ballads are being printed in a very larger scale and published. And later on, we have the many other small books also known as the chap books. The books which are available at very less cost. The chap books are sold by the chap sellers who used to sell it for a single penny. The chap books are the books which are made with a very low quality of book, which is being sold on to everybody with a single penny, which means that it can be reached to common man also. That's how the reading culture, the writing culture started to spread to the all corners of the European continent. And later, if we discuss the other famous book in France, it was the Belleticue Biliou. Belleticue Biliou is also a book which was of low paper quality and thin sheets having binded on that with the blue color sheets, which is also been sold at very less cost to all the people available, so that it can be reaching to the various corners of the France, where everybody can learn, can get connected towards the knowledge. That's how the reading habit, the culture, the understanding, the writing, the discussion started to develop. After the certain phase started, people started to acquire newspapers, the news magazines, the political magazines. All these things started to initiate the process of reading the news into the public. So the news, the updates in the political scenario, and also the updates in the sports fields, in the scientific fields, in the investigation fields, on the church developments, on the movements against the church developments, the different denominants of the church also. The dominions started to publish their own books, the translation of the church, the New Testament into various parts, led to the awareness of the people to get them flooded with the various ways of knowledge. That's how the knowledge started to spread on. And now, when we already discussed about the news, in that the most important category was the scientists. The scientists, especially Isaac Newton's writings, were being published in a very larger scale, so that it initiated the people, those who are having that scientific fever, can understand what is actually happening, what are the latest developments that he is planning, what he is discussing about the gravitation, what are the laws that he has brought, what are his basic principles, what is the reaction of every action against other reactions, Newton's third law of motion. So all these things were discussed widely, deliberately discussed, debated, and understanding has been developed in such a way. Not only Newton, but also Rouse's views, John Jacques Rouse, the separatist, the awakening thoughts have been imbibed by him. He brought into knowledge that we need to question the all blind superstitious beliefs and think rationally and question the authorities who are forced us to do certain things. What is the necessity for somebody to force us to follow the superstitions? So all these things brought the people to understand the knowledge of news, scientific, and the philosophers. All these things start to come into the hands of the people. And later, as it was rightly remarked by Merciers remarked that, saying that, "Tremble, therefore, the tyrants of the world." According to him, the most powerful person in this world is a person who can write with his pen. It's not the person who is holding the sword in his hand and who is ruling the kingdom. Even the kingdom can be collapsed if a writer puts his views against that. If he questions any kind of atrocities, which are made by the king. So that's how he brought into understanding the people that what is the reach of writing, what is the importance of writing. So McKenna rightly brought its view, because when we took out the example of Martin Luther, who raised his voice against the church. Church is not a kingdom which is restricted to a particular country. He raised his voice in Italy, it reached to entire England, and it reached to the entire Europe. So it was rightly remarked by Mercius when he is saying that entire world will shake if we write and if it is published. So the printing has brought the reach of the ideas, crossing vertically and horizontally all the boundaries of the countries, continents, even crossing on the greater Alps, greater mountain ranges to the various other corners. And now people are no more unaware of the facts, of the scientific developments, or the latest news, political developments, rational thinking, scientific thinking. So all these things were brought into the understanding of the people, were at the reach of the hands of the people. So that's how the developments happened in regards to the development of print reading media. And now when we take about the question like asking, what about the French Revolution? Is really printing accountable for French Revolution? Is really the printing has brought the French Revolution? Yes, it has been put into three major discussion points. The first major point is, in answering this question, when it comes to the French Revolution was not triggered by the printing media. It has brought the people the right understanding of what is happening during that time. That is, the critical thinking has been initiated because of the writing of the books of Rousseau, and the questioning of the atrocities, the questioning of the blind superstitious beliefs which are being followed by the kings, by the nobles during that period. A rational thinking has been brought into the brains of the people by the views of Rousseau, by the views of the Thomas More. These all people brought the equitable society. The will of the people is more important. These all ideologies have been brought into the knowledge of the people by getting the printing more famous. So critical thinking has been brought into the lines of the people's brains. And the next fundamental major change which has been brought was, after the books are being printed, the books are, who can read it, who can understand it, started to discuss and have a dialogue on it. And after having a dialogue and understanding the books thoroughly, then they started to spread this message by having debates at the public places, at the taverns, at the public gatherings, tea point gatherings, and all these things. So the second point has given the chance to have a dialogue and a debate on what is the book that has been published, what is the thinking that has been stressed on by the thinkers, what are the new scientific developments. All these things started to give a process of dialogue and debate. And moving on to the third one, the outpouring of the literature. During this time, it's not only the ideas of Newton, it's not only the ideas of Voltaire, it's not only the ideas of Rousseau, it's not only the ideas of Thomas More. It is ideas were spreading in a very large manner. The different dominions of the church brought into light the different views of the church. When different views of the church are brought, then they start to question the authority of the churches, then they start to question the authority of the people and the nobles. It also brought the most luxurious lives led by the kings and the most substantial evidences of the monarchies behaving more selfishly rather than being more caring towards the people. So all these outpouring knowledge which was brought nearby to the people and into the brains of the people, yes, may be triggered from half of the point, but not completely that it has triggered the French Revolution. In this process, we will just have a brief recap of this. See here, the reading mania has brought the development of various church dominions publishing the New Testament, which is reachable to all people by breaking it into small parts and making it into different convenient number of small pages available at very less cost, so that it can be reachable to many number of people, and also maintaining the entire record of the year-old activities like the almanacs and later this, to reach to the common people to have their own small records, they started to publish the chapbooks. After the chapbooks were being invented, in France especially, we have Balitio Q Blue. These are also the small books affordable to the common man. So the news which has been spreading into the people, because the news magazines were also being published, the regular magazines has been published, the scientific developments which are invented by Sir Isaac Newton were being published to the common man's reach, where it created a favor for the people, those who are having a passion to understand the scientific nature. And also the philosophy, which are the philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau and Locke, John Locke, all these people started to publish their books. People started to read them and understand the different thoughts, the rational thinking, the blind beliefs are being questioned bilaterally without having any compromise on that. So all these things were being brought to understanding of the people. So the scientific and the philosopher books also read into the people, and as it was rightly remarked by Mercier, that tremble therefore the tyrant of the world. The most powerful person in this world is the person who can write, but not the person who can hold a sword and control the people by being an emperor. Even the emperor can tremble if a person writes a book and that book gets published. It can be rightly example or exemplified by taking an example of Martin Luther, who wrote completely against the church authorities which were more powerful than a king, where they were established in the entire corner of Europe, and where he raised his voice, resulting in the Reformation movement. So all these things reveals for us that the most powerful one is the printing and the writing. So this has been concluded as the effect of reading mania. But there are many questions which are raised in connection with the French Revolution. How far is printing connected with the triggering of French Revolution? We may not say it is 100% correct to say that critical thinking or dialogue, debate and outpouring of the literature were the three major angles or perceptions which can be viewed when it comes to the French Revolution. With the writing of the books, with the getting of the knowledge to the people, that has triggered the critical thinking in the minds of the people. The critical thinking will always bring in the knowledge of the people to understand clearly whether it is right or not, whether it is applicable or not, whether it is a true fact or just a cooked story. So all these things can be understood very well using this critical thinking understanding which was brought by reading various books. And next, the dialogue and the debate. Once the books are written and released, the people, those who can understand these books, read them and then they concluded and consolidated their statements. Afterwards, they brought them in discussion with the people to make them to understand what are the growing thoughts around the world. After having this dialogue and also getting more amount of books and knowledge about the biographies of the kings, about the activities of the kings, about the acts of the queens, about the issues of the personal affairs, about the reasons for going wars by the authorities or especially by monarchies, all these things brought in the understanding that monarchy is having almost always the selfish attributes, not having any kind of public inclination at all. So these all things may also be the hidden reasons for having the French Revolution triggered on a very larger scale. Now, in order to conclude, it would be right to say that people did not only read the books which are written by the scientific experts like Newton or the philosophers like Rousseau, Moore, Thomas Locke and all these people, but they also have read the books which are being published by the church authorities and also by the other people. So people always listened, heard, read everything which are being published. They have always taken whatever they feel that is good and rejected whichever is not in reality. But it has to be underlined that people's thinking or people's thought process has been changed and the minds have been kicked off to open because of the outpour of the knowledge which has come up behind having the printing machine on a larger scale. If printing machine was not developed, this kind of transformation, this kind of passing on of the information would not have been possible. Now, Till now we have discussed like how did the writing develop, how did the printing concept has been initially found in China, what are the basic reasons for the Chinese people to focus so much on printing. As we all know that they used to conduct examinations like civil services in order to recruit high number of bureaucrats into their administration. Later on, this information and technology passed on to the west through the famous Silk Route, where initially we used to have only Silk Route happening from there. Later now the knowledge of the western block printing or the wooden block printing passed on towards the west into Italy by the Italian traveler Marco Polo in 1295 AD. After the knowledge has been passed to this side, then they brought the understanding on a very larger scale. After this triggered, we have seen how the knowledge went on to Japan, then to the other corners, and later how John Gutenberg discovered a machine which can print the letters very fast by printing Bible of 180 copies in just a span of 3 years, created a remarkable history. After this, the printing has become very easy at very less and affordable cost to all people. Later, this has poured the entire knowledge of people. Initially in the 15th century, there were only 20 million books. Later on, the number has been increased by the 16th century to 200 million books. With this, the flooding of books in the European market has brought us to understand how fascinated the people are towards the knowledge and understanding. It was not so easy for the publishers to make it connected to the common people, because most of the people are uneducated people. But by bringing ballads, by bringing the folktale stories and bringing the calendars and making them to visualize by the pictures, all these things made the people to get well connected, and they turned into the non-readers into a reader community. The gap has been reduced by getting the new public into existence or into the reading community. After this, we have various other turns when it comes to the reading mania, where the reading mania has been brought many other changes. And before this, we also have seen how printing has brought the revolutions in this phase. That's how the developments have been triggered, and it clearly shows for us that only the reading or the books did not change the mindset of the people. It is the thought process which has been changed. It initiated to discuss scientifically, logically, and questioning undoubtedly any superstitious or blind beliefs, and asking seriously what is a divine right theory without any doubts. So that's how the knowledge has helped the people to have modern understanding, and it may be one of the reasons for the growth or the revolt of French Revolution.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.